Give him some room. I'm a nice guy, you know. He must have said something bad. What? What's he saying?
You're gonna turn my hair.
I can do that.
I say.
And it don't do no good. I get a big back pain.
Recording? All right. If everyone can rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Councilman Bukowski, you can lead us.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please remain standing with a moment of silence for our veterans. And for the invocation tonight, we have Reverend Rick Maisano.
On March 22nd, 1839. Anybody remember that day?
Yeah, Jared.
I wasn't gonna say nothing, but Cheektowaga became a town. So we celebrate 185 years as the town of Cheektowaga. Let's pray. Father, we thank you, Lord God, for all your mercy, your love, your grace you have poured out upon us. We ask, Father God, your blessing upon the town of Cheektowaga, upon our elected officials. We pray, Father God, for our police and fire departments, all those first responders. Bless them, Father, and protect them. We ask, Lord God, that this meeting, Father, will go well. Father, will be peace. And Father, that you continue to bless this fine town. We ask it in your name. Amen.
Amen. All right, everybody, please be seated. All right, before we move further this evening, as everybody in the room is aware, we are having power issues, and I'm being told internet connectivity issues as well. So if at any point the power goes out in the building, it's going to kill the live stream for those folks that are watching right now. Just be aware of that. And with that, if the clerk can call the roll.
Councilmember Barbara Bukowski. Present. Councilmember Michael Jazinski.
I make a motion to pause for a moment. He's waiting for a Zoom link right now. Oh, it looks like we're up and live, so I should be able to get on. You have that, clerk?
Waiting for a Zoom link.
I think he was waiting and then power got interrupted. You have the Zoom link, right? He's waiting for the host to start the meeting. Back out and open it right away.
All right, we can continue the roll call.
Councilmember Gerald Kaminsky.
Present.
Councilmember Brian Kolarski.
Present.
Councilmember Vernon Thompson.
Here.
Supervisor Brian Noah.
Present, all present with the recognition that, that Mr. Jazinski is trying to connect to the meeting. All right, next is public comment period. This is an opportunity for residents to comment on items appearing on the agenda of the town board meeting. The public comment period should last 15 minutes maximum. Each speaker may speak only once, and each speaker is limited to a maximum of 3 minutes speaking time. Let's see. And our first speaker is Dan Hollander.
I want to talk about our bonding, our financial disaster bonding stuff out for 40 years, 5.5 million for 4 years. This is not 1960s, not 1970s, 2024. 5.5 million is only about 5% of our budget. And with that said, if we bonded out 5.5 million for 40 years at 3.5%, you're going to throw away $7.7 million in interest.
Okay, if you bond it out for 20 years, you're gonna throw away 3.85 million in interest. If you bond it for 10 years, you'll throw away 1.925. We're not saying don't bond, but be smart about it. We're not saying don't fix the roads, don't fix the storm sewers. We're not saying any of that. Be smart how you're paying for it. If you pay for it in reserve funds, you pay 0 interest. The same thing goes down with the 2.25 million in milling. Okay, if you pay for that for 15 years, you're going to pay a total of $3.431 million, which is a 35% increase. You're just throwing out the window. If you do it for, actually 1.18 million roughly. If you do it for 10 years, you're going to pay $787,500 in interest, and if you do it for just 5 years, you pay $393,750 in interest. Now, to add to that, in the 2022 annual comprehensive financial report of the town on page 57, we don't have the 2023 one yet. It says at the bottom of page 57, if the town must use funds for emergency expenditures, the town board shall authorize the supervisor to expend funds first from funds classified as non-spendable. If funds become available, then restricted funds. The use of committed and assigned funds will occur after the exhaustion of available restricted funds. Finally, if no other fund balances are available, the town will use unassigned fund balance. Nowhere in that does it say anything about bonding. Okay, now, I don't know if there's a town law that states this, but this came from somewhere. Somebody put it in that financial report. And I'd almost bet it's going to be in the 2023 financial report if it ever gets published. With that, please use our tax money smarter. Paying a little now and paying for 40 years is not smart. Paying a little more now and paying for less time so we actually throw away less money in interest is a lot smarter. A lot more fiscally responsible. That, I'll end mine.
Thank you, Dan. Next up is Stephen Nowicki.
This is also in relation to the bonding. So there's evidence to show that we've been using credit for over 4,000 years to facilitate public work projects in one form or another. Why all of a sudden in 2024 we are attempting to fund projects with exclusively cash on hand instead of financing for completely reasonable projects, I don't understand the reasoning for. I don't know when the proverbial kicking of the can down the road started with our infrastructure, but I do know that if this board wants to continue down the road it is, that soon there will be so many gaps in said road that we will lose the ability to kick it any further. Our sewers are expensive to currently fix, but I ask of any of you with experience in construction or public work projects how the cost projections look when you continue to defer payments and work on these projects until it becomes convenient. There's a saying in my industry where if you don't schedule the maintenance on your own equipment, that it will schedule it for you. You are quickly approaching a point where infrastructure is going to schedule it for you. I ask any of you to tell me a company who will provide urgent repairs at a cheaper cost than a pre-planned project. Now, I would like to agree with the previous commenter up here. Please spend the money in a smart way. Obviously, spending over 40 years on credit is not going to be a great thing, but neither is liquidating all our assets to spend cash on hand. I trust that you have the judgment to do what you think is best for the town, and I'd like to see that going forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Gary Bork, you're next.
Guys, I want to be here to support the resolution 151, the senior citizen tax. I know it's just for a public hearing. I hope you're going to move it along. I want to thank Councilman Thompson and Szynski for bringing that up. And hopefully the rest of you will support it and we'll get it done this year like it should have been done last year. Thank you.
Thank you. Heather Alt, you're next.
Hi there. I just want to speak about the road work and road repairs that are scheduled each summer. While I think laying asphalt certainly has a role, I think there's a bigger picture. I know on Eggert Road where I live and the intersection of East Delavan Avenue, it looks terrible. We have rusted signs, faded signs, missing signs, incorrect signs, signs that are not installed properly, 2 of them on one pole, debris, weeds, trash, potholes. The center ridge down Eggert Road, which was paved on one side and then the other side on 2 different years, this ridge in the middle has been basically scraped away by the snowplows, exposing a large crack down the middle of the road now. It was just paved like, in the past, few years. I feel like it's easy to maybe look on an Excel spreadsheet and see that roads like, oh, it hasn't been paved for, 10 years or 13 or 15 years. But in reality, there's just a lot more that goes into, making a street look good. And, there like, trees, street trees or other just kind of maintenance. Even the fact that the street sweepers came by, which honestly has been hardly ever on Eggert because we've had these massive, huge weeds growing through the cracks of the road. It makes such a huge difference. It actually maintains the road and it makes it so that the road lasts longer. So, I just am not that interested in seeing, lots and lots of pavement and asphalt laid every summer when all these other maintenance issues are not being addressed. And, I have a problem on my side of the road because there really are no town employees or officials who live near me, so they don't use Eggert. The only town employees I see are the police, all the time they're on my street or looking at what's going on, at these 2 corner stores, which are pretty sketchy. I believe they're both selling, alcohol and drugs illegally. And we don't really have any representation. This kind of goes back to districts and wards, but there's nowhere for me to go to really bring my complaints. So, you can't just look at numbers. You actually have to come into a neighborhood and look at the conditions. And related to this, the library on my side of town has very low usage in comparison to the other library. And this has been going on for many years, and it's in the annual reports, et cetera. So I looked at both libraries. My library has no signage in front. Parking is in the back. The door is in the back. The hours are in the back. People come into the library and say to the staff, I didn't even know this was a library. Isn't that weird? I mean, why would you have a library with no identification in front of it?
3 minutes are up.
Okay, and I just want to finish by saying at the Lawson Road Library.
Libraries are a county issue, not the town board, and it's not an agenda item, and I don't want to cut you off, but 3
Okay.
minutes are 3 minutes. Thank you.
Okay, can I just finish my sentence?
If you
Related to
wanna
this, you
continue
just can't
after
look
the
at the
meeting
numbers.
and-
I'll make a motion to extend Heather's time.
I'll second that motion since it's there.
All in favor?
Thank you very much. All I'm saying is you can't look at a spreadsheet or look at how many visitors come into a library or whatnot. You need people from the neighborhood or town officials who will actually be coming to the neighborhood to look in person to see what's going on. I know the library is a separate issue, but again, if the library had signage like the other library, and people could see it was a library, that would help with the numbers. So similarly with the roads, I just think that looking at a spreadsheet, looking at how many years have gone by, might not give you the full picture of what's actually going on that street and what actually needs to be done. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Last, at the bottom, Mr. User.
I was already on the wrong sheet. I wanted to be on the last sheet.
So you don't want to speak now?
No, sir. Thank you.
Oh, we'll definitely hear you out.
Hold your peace.
All right, that is the conclusion of the public comment for resolution items. We have 4 public hearings tonight. Speakers will be limited to 3 minutes on those. The first is a local law intro 2024-1 of 2024, a local law to amend the open burning in the town of Cheektowaga. Good evening.
Good evening. As you all know, I'm Craig McConaughey from the Town of Cheektowaga Office of Fire Safety. This case in particular, we're not looking to ban fires. We're not looking to ban open burning. We're actually trying to relax our local law on open burning. The only additional thing put in place, we are defining what an allowable open fire is based on the New York State code. and also allowing us to implement burn bans in the event of atmospheric events where that may call for it. According to the New York State DEC, we are in what is called the Lake Ontario Plains Fire Danger Rating Area, which extends all the way from Buffalo to Jefferson County, which is where Fort Drum is. And then the Southern Tier Fire Danger Rating Area goes from Hamburg all the way across to Seneca Lake, down to Chemung County, and across to Erie, Pennsylvania. So those are very large areas that's how the state puts in their burn bans for atmospheric reasons. So it will allow us to put in a burn ban if the atmospheric conditions here are different from what they are in Fort Drum, or they're different. I mean, we get different weather here than they do in Fort Drum all the time. They just got several feet of snow up there, and we got a couple inches. So it is very it's a very unique state, and unfortunately, the DC only has it broken up so much. Other than that, that's all I have on that, unless you guys have any questions.
Any questions from board members? For this public hearing and the other three this evening, there are sign-up sheets right up front. Craig, can you bring me the sign-up sheet for the first one? Sure. And do we have anybody signed up to speak on this public hearing?
Yes.
Thank you, sir. All right, we have two signed up this evening. One, we have Lisa Hairston.
Should be on the last sheet.
All right, comments after the resolutions then? Okay, we'll get you on there, Lisa. All right, with that, I'll make a motion to close the public hearing. You have a second? Second from Councilman Kaminsky, all in favor? All right, next public hearing is closed. All right. The next public hearing this evening is for local law intro 2024, number 2 of 2024. A local law to amend the zoning law of the town of Cheektowaga.
Hey,
Welcome again.
Greg from the Office of Fire Safety. This particular law is banning the use of organic mulches in commercial settings only. It has nothing to do with residential areas. This is based on last couple of years, we've seen a very large uptick in mulch fires within the town. Just last year, in the period from April 11th to June 22nd, our volunteer firefighters in town responded to 41 mulch fires, just in that, 2.5 month span. So we're looking to prohibit the use of organic mulches in commercial settings and forcing them to use alternative methods. I will note that this will not go into effect until January 1 of next year. Because by the time this law is passed, we will be right in the middle of landscaping season, and we're not going to make them change that now.
Right. With that, any questions from board members? Mr. Plarski?
Of those 41 fires, all 41 were commercial, or were they?
All 41 were commercial settings.
Just want to make sure we're comparing apples to apples.
Any other council members?
This is regards just to commercial.
Yes, this will only affect commercial properties.
Right. We don't have anybody signed up for this public hearing, so with that, I'll make a motion to close the public hearing. We got a second from Councilmember Bukowski. All in favor? And public hearing is closed. Oh, you again. All right. Next, we have demolition of 217 Orchard Place. The podium is once again yours.
All right, just let Tim get the information up on the screen. Okay, once again, I'm Craig from the Town of Cheektowaga Office of Fire Safety. Okay, so 217 Orchard, on April 10th, this was 2023, this was reported to our Housing and Neighborhood Preservation Office as being vacant. On April 13th, one of our housing inspectors, Zach Sabato, went inspected the property with the assistance of the Cheektowaga Police. Building was found to be open and in poor condition. April 25th of last year, the homeowner attempted to offer the property to both our Community Development Office and Benlick for acquisition for rehab and resale. Both agencies did decline that. June 20th was referred to my office for demolition proceedings, and then July 21st, I got a call from the prospective owner of the home next door at 211 Orchard. the house was potentially going to be included with the sale of 211 Orchard. And he was considering tearing it down if he did buy it. Finally, December 7th, I had heard back from, December 6th, I heard back from him that that was not included in that sale. And we then started to move forward with our demolition proceedings. I mailed the final notice on December 7th, which was then returned on January 9th unclaimed. January 29th, Judge Stevens did sign a administrative access warrant to allow us access to the site and to review the damages. Can we skip ahead a couple here? As for past complaints, we have nothing. We have received no complaints from the neighbors on this property. I remember going back as far as probably 1998, the property being vacant and in poor condition. You can go to the next one. So 217 Orchard is on the south side of Orchard Place. It butts up to the former Conrail right-of-way and Conrail New York Central right-of-way there. And then it is bordered by number 211 and 219. So this is the front of the dwelling. We did the board up back in spring. I can go to the next one. This is the back side of the house. Roof's in poor condition. This is a section on the first floor where the rear wall is actually just rotten away. There is no structural bearing in that back wall. It's kind of just holding itself up as is. This is above where that rot was on the first floor. And that is it. We are looking to remove.
Only question I have
Yes.
is, with this property, has there been any evidence of entry by youth, the general public?
No, there is no signs of that since it has been boarded up in May. There's been no evidence of any entry since.
In May 23, right?
Yes, May of 23.
Any questions from council members?
Yes.
Councilmember Thompson?
Once demolition is complete, what is the plan going forward after that? Do we?
Generally, the property then goes to, it ends up usually going to tax foreclosure, and then it is offered up by the county to sell either to a third party or the neighbors.
In that time frame, does it just sit empty?
We cut, the town housing department does end up having our contractors cut it, and then is billed back to the original owner.
Thank you.
All right. We have nobody signed up for the public hearing. And with that, I'll make a motion to close the public hearing. Do I have a second? Second from Councilmember Kaminsky. All in favor? Any opposed? That public hearing is closed. Thank you, Greg. Appreciate your work tonight. The last public hearing we have is call public hearing to increase and improve facilities of the Consolidated Sewer District. We have nobody signed up for that hearing. Do we have anybody from the Highway Department or Engineering interested to speak a little bit on this item and to present it? Because with that, there's nobody signed up. I'll make a motion to close the public hearing. Is there a second?
No, sir. What's the purpose of this?
This public hearing, I believe, is related to resolution that we passed at the last meeting for the $3.9 million in sanitary sewer borrowing and sewer borrowing generally. We had to, for that one there, we had to hold a public hearing, and then following the public hearing, we're able to consider a resolution to borrow.
So now we're in the next steps of considering.
Right. Yeah, so with this, there's nobody signed up at the public hearing on that sewer bonding. Now I'll make a motion to close. I saw a second from Polarski. All in favor?
All right.
Any opposed? That public hearing is closed. We move on to the consent agenda. Consent agenda is contained in this meeting. The consent agenda is designed to assist making the meeting shorter and more efficient. Items left on the consent agenda may not be discussed when the consent agenda comes before the town board. If any council member wishes to discuss an item on the consent agenda, please nominate me now, and I will remove the item from the consent agenda, and it will be added as a separate resolution item. So, are there any items that council members wish to have pulled this evening? We have 4 tabled, including 2 bonding resolutions, the item on acquisition of residential properties, and the PBA MOU resolution. Are there any that board members wish to pull from the warrant, or from the consent agenda, rather?
Yes, I want to pull 123, 124, 148, and 149.
Okay, let me take a look there. 23,
24 table.
24. 6. We got 148 and 149. All right. So, yeah, the first, yeah, the first two are tabled items. The other two are in regular order. I would like to have 2024-151 poll.
What number was
2024-151.
151?
151, thank you.
Local law?
Yes, please. Are there any others? That is all. I'll make a motion to approve the meeting agenda as amended. There's second. All right, Councilman, second from Bukowski, all in favor?
All right.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. With that, I'll hand the meeting over to the clerk.
We have resolution 2024-123, sponsored by Supervisor Noack, seconded by Councilmember Kaminsky. The bond resolution of the Town of Chickawaukee, New York, adopted March 12, 2024, authorizing the issuance of bonds in the principal amount not to exceed $2,250,000 to finance the partial reconstruction and resurfacing of various town highways, stating the estimated maximum cost thereof is $2,250,000 and appropriating said amount for such purpose.
All right, on the question, I'd like to go on the question, being the mover of the item. Madam Clerk, I sent a PowerPoint slideshow earlier today. Could you pull that up, please? I know we talked about these roads at the previous meeting and in between, and the need for road bonding prior to that even. I went out and took a look at the conditions of some of the roads and put together a slideshow of some photos, just to give you an idea. It isn't every street. It isn't comprehensive. It is a survey of some of the more troubled conditions, let's say, on the streets. And you see some of them are in relatively decent shape as well in the course of this. You go through relatively fast here. First is Jessica Lane, next one up. Prince and Lou, you can see a receiver collapsing over there. We've got that issue over on Jessica as well. Over on Mildred, there's a receiver collapsing. Next up, after Ben's, is got Jane Drive. Just see it, a couple potholes there, just cracking up. After that, we've got Seal, the same issue. And Trudy's in the neighborhood with the same issue. This is Suzette Drive. Some issues on Gary Lane. This here is Gary continued. You can see that's just minimal cracking in comparison. South Prince, some potholes that have already been filled. Armand Lane, just some cracking starting there. This is Trudy. There was some patchwork already done. Over on Marcus, you can see that's breaking up more than Trudy. Victoria. Next, we've got Unionville. That's been sealed up in the past. Victoria at Pinewood Terrace. Pinewood Terrace itself. We've got Banco Drive, and the whole Banco end to end is got it's breaking up pretty bad. We've got Unionville a second time, and you got to excuse me, there are a couple of duplicates here. So that's Unionville Court again, different sections. Eastvale Court. Fairvale's got this seam breaking in half down a decent portion of the road, and that's in some other places besides Fairvale that I saw as I drove around. Bad Bet's cracking up, not nearly as bad as some others, but it's in rough shape. More Banco. Dean Road, there's sections of that are particularly bad. You can see the seam between the village and the town, and it's noticeable when you carry over there. Airport Drive, it's kind of rough shape. Eastland and Northern, and there's another receiver issue over there. Andres Place, they're doing some work today, starting that with the with sewer work there. There's another photo there. You can see that's relatively decent in that portion. This is Mildred. They're doing some sewer work there. And you'll see that pipe's actually on the street over there. Getty's Grand. After that, Midland. After that, this is Rosewood. There's, I think, just a second Rosewood to finish this out, which is another pothole near the stop sign. And that's it. Thank you for putting that out. But that's just a quick survey of some of the streets through the 4 different phases there. like I said, some of these streets are in bad shape and really need to work. Some of them, you know, if we're gonna discuss which particular streets we do, I think there's a case to be made that they can be delayed, but, you know, it's more discussing this. We're talking about, you know, nearly 15 miles of road, 54 streets, and there are issues on a lot of them. So I just wanted to put that up, show actual photos. I got out there. I know the other folks are asking questions, looking into it. I'm sure you know, looked yourselves, but I just wanted to give that as a reference point for considering this item. Any other council members?
Yeah, I think that this is where, you know, I've listened to all the stories that in a lot of cases, the roads don't last as long as they used to. How many trucks do you see going down the residential streets now? Amazon, I mean, you name it, they're everywhere. How many people in this room own a pickup truck? Quite a few, four-wheel drive, tears the roads up something terrible. And it's something nobody understands, that if you go back 15, 20 years ago, we didn't have the traffic we've got today. Back then, I think Amazon was really heard of. FedEx was just coming into being. There is so much of it on the residential streets now. And it's like I said, you know, to me, in simple English, we can do them later at a greater cost. It's not going to be any cheaper next year, the year after, or the year after.
Any other council members?
Sure.
Yes.
So speaking on, you know, the list of the streets that we've come up with, you know, there are some streets that I drove down, you know, off of Borden Road, and if you were to tell me that my street that I lived on there, was gonna be paved in 2 years, I might say, oh, okay, great. And, you know, I like to try and take care of my car with, you know, all the potholes and everything like that, and I wouldn't even bat an eye. Now, are there streets that absolutely need to be paved? 100%. And one of the ones that are not even in consideration are the one that, she's still here, Heather had mentioned, Eggert Road. Why isn't even that in consideration? So, I mean, again, I'm all for fixing the roads and doing what's necessary. But I think it's, like last meeting I mentioned, we should be prioritizing the streets that need to be paved and not just paving to be in a habit of paving, because you can, you know, have our guys doing some of the street cleaning that she mentioned and trimming the trees around the areas of town that, you know, might be neglected in a sense. And those are the things that we should be doing anyhow. So I think that would be good to prioritize some of that stuff and do the streets that need to be paved. That's where I stand on it. I don't want to just do it to do it. So that's my thought.
I hear you. Thank you. Any other council members which should be recognized?
Yes.
Mr. Jazinski.
Yes, I agree with Councilmember Thompson. I know Heather Alt had posted some pictures of the Cheektowaga side of Eggert Road, and I'm just curious why that road isn't put on that list. And I, as many people in this town, frequent a lot of streets. I mean, there are some streets that are, you know, in dire need, in a heck of a lot worse shape than the slideshow you did there. So I'm just curious, you know, what other than, you know, it timing out in years of how many years it takes to do these roads, you know, I think we should do it based off of a priority of, you know, the worst roads get taken care of first. And, you know, I think we should, you know, look at possibly, you know, picking out the 10 worst roads and looking at what the consideration is of doing those, as opposed to, you know, I mean, for all those roads you just showed, there's definitely 10 more we could probably point out that definitely are in dire need. So.
Thank you for your comments. I would add to that. There are roads near the airport that aren't on the list that are in need of work, and to your point. Any other council members wish to speak on this? All right, I'd like a roll call vote, Madam Clerk.
Councilmember Bukowski?
No.
Councilmember Jazinski?
No.
Councilmember Kaminsky?
Yes.
Councilmember Kolarski?
Yes.
Councilmember Thompson?
No.
Supervisor Noah?
Yes.
Motion is defeated. Resolution 2024-124, sponsored by Supervisor Noah, seconded by Councilmember Kaminsky. Bond resolution of the Town of Chickawaga, New York, adopted March 12, 2024, authorizing the issuance of bonds in a principal amount not to exceed $5,500,000 to finance the construction of drainage improvements on town highways, stating the estimated maximum cost thereof of $5,500,000 and appropriating said amount for such purpose.
All right, on the question, I'll just say this is a issue that the board members have discussed. We've gotten information on what's being considered here. There's a number of items that this would fund, including some bridge work, and, drainage on town sewers that we're aware there is a problem. I've read off the items at the last meeting. I feel I've said my piece on the issue. And I would urge the board to consider passage of this item. Any other council members?
Well, I think this is of a great importance, and I know without getting in a lengthy term on it, evidently from the information that I've been able to gather and through our engineering department, a lot of what we're replacing is it'll be here long after I'm dead and buried. And it's like I said, and I know everybody complains about bonding, about spending money. Well, and mainly because none of us are getting any younger. Do you want to fit the bill for 2 generations down the road? Do you want to pay for everything now so somebody that won't be born for 20 years is able to take advantage of it? We can't foot the bill for everything. That's part of why our country's in the shape it's in. But it's like I said, bonding it out 20, 30, even 40 years gives everybody an opportunity down the road that is going to be using this. And we all share an expense. I would hate to see what would happen if we had to do it all at once within the constraints of the town budget. I don't think anybody would stay in their houses very long. Thank you.
Any other council members?
Yes,
We're to, Mr. Jazinski and then Councilmember Thompson.
Mr. Thompson can go first.
Speaking to the bonding, I know we did discuss with the engineering department some items, and obviously they gave us our list, and the list is very long of things that need to be done in this town, and I appreciate the work that they do in finding those items. But sitting up here, you have to make those difficult decisions sometimes to say, what can we prioritize and to do it responsibly. So to do, all of this drainage work and some of the stuff that, Councilmember Kaminsky mentioned is a good point. It's going to last for the next 30, 40 years. So, things like that, maybe we shouldn't borrow. We should use some of the reserve funds that we have, because that's what I believe some of these reserve funds should be used for. Things that, are once in a lifetime type thing, and not to be borrowed out because, you want to borrow something when your back's against the wall and you can't do some of these things. But if you have those funds, they're supposed to be used for emergency type scenarios from what I'm told. And I think something as important as this would count as that. So, thank you.
Any other council? Jazinski?
Yes, to Councilmember Kaminsky's point, there are people that won't be born for the next 30 years that would have to pay off the bonding interest on this loan. Yes, we want to fix the sewers, but in today's society, there's not a person in this room that has, we all live with less. Unfortunately, we have to prioritize. Do we want to fix the sewer systems? Absolutely. But we need to maybe assess the worst ones and what is priority. So, there's a lot of things I'd like to do around my house too, and sure, I could borrow until pay the loan off and when I'm 95 years old. So, I think there's a methodical way of doing this. I think there's a better way of at least approaching some of these concerns with, the reconstruction of the highway and the sewers. I think there's definitely some other things that we could consider. As Councilmember Thompson said, we could use some of the reserve funds. Ultimately, that's what it's there for. It's, if these are really dire things, and we have the cash, why not use it now? I'm living for today. None of us could be here tomorrow. So if the money's there, let's use it.
I have a question for the finance director. The sewer reserve funds, would they cover the cost of all the projects that we're deciding to do here? All the reserves?
I don't believe the sewer reserve funds, no, I mean, this discussion is not on sewer, it's on
Yeah.
storm drainage right now.
Understood. Okay.
But, you know, I mean, you can use one-time fund balances for one-time costs. I mean, a lot of these projects are, I know that they're long-term items, but there's a lot of long-term items out there, so, I mean, to do it 1 year, you're gonna need to, you'll likely be back here next year talking about bonding again.
All right, so it'll come from the highway funds then to cover this, right?
These will come from the highway funds, yes. And we do not issue debt for 40 years. It's not anything we do. Our general length of time is between 15 and 20 years. I understand there's an interest cost. That happens when you borrow money, but it's at 3.5% currently. This is not an unusual situation. Every other town in the Western New York and the whole state does the same type of bonding.
So going back to those sewer reserves, we could not use those sewer reserves to cover this work, correct?
No,
It's a different account.
correct.
All right, and with the highway fund, do you know offhand this evening how much we have in reserves or how much we were estimated to have at the beginning of this year?
I didn't come prepared with
Yeah,
that.
I'm sorry, it just a question that came to my head.
I mean, we did have significant reserve funds in highway, as a lot of people have highlighted. In the last two budgets, we've planned to use a lot of those to balance the budget, which is really not how you're supposed to use these types of funds. They're supposed to be used more for a capital or a long-term nature item, not to balance an operating budget, which is what we've done for the past couple of years.
Now, if we use the reserve funds, that's gonna increase the likelihood of having to increase taxes in the highway department, correct? That's my take on it. Is that a matter of opinion? Or?
This is a balancing act, you know, I mean, it's, we try to do what we do, and we try to prioritize, as people say, you know, with what funding we have available, we'll try to prioritize it that way. At some point, you truly have to, you know, balance the budget with another recurring revenue.
Appreciate that, thank you. Anybody else?
One last question.
Yes.
Sorry to put you on the spot here, but do you happen to know, say, last 2-3 years, interest rates on bonds? Gone up, down, or?
They've gone up recent. They were lower than 1% at one point in the last 10 years, and now I know they were up probably 4.5. Now they're down to 3.5. It's all market related, obviously.
I'd like to call for roll call vote.
Councilmember Bukowski? No. Councilmember Jazinski?
No.
Councilmember Kaminsky?
Yes.
Councilmember Kolarski?
Yes.
Councilmember Thompson?
No.
Supervisor Noah?
Yes.
Motion is defeated. Resolution 2024-126, sponsored by Councilmember Kolarski, seconded by Councilmember Thompson. On occasion, residential properties which are deteriorated, vacant, or serve as influence on neighborhood, and which are in need of major repair, restoration, and demolition, become available for purchase. Acquisition of such properties by the town would, on occasion, serve to further the neighborhood preservation goals of the town. The town board hereby authorizes and directs the town supervisor to enter into contract to purchase residential properties as recommended by the Director of Community Development that are consistent with the town's neighborhood preservation goals pursuant to federal program regulations and guidelines established by the Town Office of Community Development.
On the question?
I just want to make sure there's one amendment. So the bottom where it says that the town board hereby authorizes and directs the town supervisor to enter into contract to purchase residential properties. I'd like it to be the town board to approve for you to sign that to purchase those properties. As they come up, because right now this is saying that we authorize you to purchase these residential properties. I think we should be informed before it gets signed for a property, because if we just sign one and you're able to, you know, or any supervisor, I think it should come to the board, any residential properties that we will be acquiring.
And I do believe any purchase would come to the board, there would be a resolution individually.
Just like some specific language at least on there, because it says the town board authorizes and directs the supervisor to enter into contract.
What do you think about an amendment that says, after informing the town board of said purchase? How's that language? After informing town board of said purchase.
I like Councilmember Thompson's amendment.
Yeah, I think the town board should approve it before signing it into agreement of purchase.
Oh, okay, I hear what you're saying. How would you propose the wording on that?
Well, we could table it and do the same thing we did with the other one and come up with the language. But I'm in favor of Councilmember Thompson. So do we want to call a roll call vote or do we want to amend it?
Have to get the language together. I mean, it gets tabled and the language is
Third
together.
table, you need a majority to table.
Correct.
Madam Clerk, did you receive an amended version of this from Rachel? Because we did discuss amending that to say such, and I believe that was sent to,
Do you know when she sent it?
was it a couple days ago? I don't have the exact, but I know we were both.
I know there's a waiver item for 29 Marm, basically the same language.
Sausage.
All right, so this one, actually, the amendment should read with the actual purchase of the property that's in question is 29 Marin Road. So if we resolve the last one that says the town board hereby authorizes and directs the town supervisor to enter into a contract to purchase 29 Marin Road, it's spelled out right there what property. It's not a blank check here to sign into any contract. So we just need to amend that last whereas to spell out the property right now
So
that we're looking to approve.
my resolutions in front of me were printed on March 20th. Does the resolution packet online show it amended?
It does not.
It does not?
That's what I have
So,
in front of me. so-
Absolutely. If you want to offer an amendment that specifically lists 29 Martin,
That's the waiver item.
Is that the waiver one she put
That's the
in?
waiver item. It
Yeah,
went on
that's-
as a waiver.
We're trying to amend the resolution that Councilmember Thompson's proposing the amendment for, which would work in conjunction with that waiver item.
Which then brings the question, if this, yeah, this doesn't pass,
So-
that waiver item doesn't go through either, so I don't know on that. But that is how future resolutions look though, for each property, they're presented just like that waiver item. This one authorized, it says, hey, the board approves it, but each property still has to be approved, like that waiver item that's submitted for today's meeting.
You don't even have to pass this resolution.
So
You can
we're
withdraw.
fine with moving forward without it, but, you know,
You want to table it?
no, we put that down because we have the waiver item which directly is correlation to this resolution here we're speaking of. I'd like to pause for a roll call vote.
yeah, Madam Clerk, do we have a roll call?
Councilmember Bukowski?
No.
Councilmember Jazinski?
No.
Councilmember Kaminsky?
Yes.
Councilmember Kolarski?
Yes.
Councilmember Thompson?
No.
Was that a no?
No. Correct, that was a no.
Supervisor Noah?
I'm gonna vote yes.
Motion is 3-3, it is not carried. Resolution 2024-129, sponsored by Councilmember Thompson, seconded by Councilmember Pilarski. Town of Chickawaga and the Town of Chickawaga Police Club are parties to a collective bargaining agreement dated January 1st, 2024 through December 31st, 2026. Section 23.04 of the CBA requires officers hired after January 1st, 98 to reside within the Town of Chickawaga. The town and the club wish to modify the residency requirements contained in section 23.04 of the CBA to make the town of Chickawaga more competitive in recruiting and retaining police officers to the town of Chickawaga Police Department. During the first 5 years of service after maintaining residency, a police officer must reside within the town of Chickawaga. After the 5th year of service and after maintaining residency in the town of Chickawaga, police officer may reside wherever the officer chooses within Erie County. Newly appointed police officers will have 1 year to comply with the residency requirements as set forth by the town of Chickawaga. The supervisor being hereby is authorized to sign this memorandum of agreement between the town of Chickawaga and the town of Chickawaga Police Club effective immediately.
On the question,
I'd like to poll it for a roll call vote.
we have a motion to pull for a roll call vote. Is there a second now?
Full for roll call vote. I'd like to speak on it first.
Oh, okay, we also have a motion to speak on the item. Do we have discussion on the item before a vote? All right, Councilmember Pilarski, you're recognized.
All right, we've been kicking this can down the road way too long. I mean, this is an issue that I felt should have been addressed when I first got on the board. That's why I'm spearheading this thing. It should have been addressed last contract. I get that we need to tie it up legally with the legal jargon and make sure it's clean and neat. But this has been brought up in the beginning of the year, and here we are now still kicking it down the road. We got to tighten up the MOA that's in there, we were told, and I believe that. I'm going to go with the advice we were given on it all, but I mean, this has to be done. And we are going to face an issue where it's going to become a state of emergency that we're losing officers left and right. And it's not just a Chickawaga issue. This is straight across the state, straight across the country. We're competing for the same officers within the county and at the state level. I mean, we're losing another officer this week to transfer to another, department. We lost officers due to health reasons. We're below the staffing number right now. The officer's taking a test. It's offered twice a year. The numbers have decreased in that same pool. Everybody's competing for. I don't believe, this is going to help with recruiting, but it sure as heck will help with retention. And then we got to figure out the recruiting piece of it all, because less and less are taking the test for it to become officers. And if this makes us competitive to keep officers in Chickawaga, it needs to be done. I mean, our neighboring areas, Hamburg is 6 years, City of Buffalo 7. Pew, correct me if I'm wrong, but I want to say it's 1. Like, it's just, we're not even in ballpark competing. So this has to get passed next meeting. Whether it's right or wrong. I mean, I'm for it next meeting, right or wrong. So it needs to be ironed out.
Councilmember Thompson, you're a sponsor on the item. Would you like to speak on it?
Yes, so this is something that, there's a lot of controversy around, and, people say, why don't the police want to live in our town? And, you can make your argument for anything you want, but when you go to some of these officers that we have and you hear, the stories and, what makes their life difficult on a day-to-day basis to do their job. I have tremendous faith in Chief Coons. We've had a great relationship since he's come on board, and, talking with some of the issues that they're facing in recruitment and attainment and, the community relationships that they have, looking forward to, seeing what he can come up with going forward here. And I think it's very important to have that trust and relationship. And, when you look for trying to keep people in this market, I think everybody understands it's a day and age where it's difficult to find people that want to put their life on the line to be a police officer with all the scrutiny and things that you face. And I thank all of you that are in attendance and not in attendance here for the job that you do. And I think most of the constituents do as well. So I appreciate that. This has been going on for a long time and didn't really see to get any traction on that. And obviously being new to this board, I think it was something important to me to kind of spearhead. Councilmember Pilarski and myself have been doing this, and I still vehemently believe that this resolution is to authorize the supervisor to sign that agreement. Doesn't mean it needs to be right now. He has told me that he's willing to sponsor this as well, under the guise of, you know, after a year, you move into town, you have 5 years of service as a police officer, and, you know, you're free to move into a different area within Erie County. So he has agreed to do that with myself and Brian Pilarski. You know, Barbara's on board, Councilmember Jazinski. I'm sure Councilmember Kaminsky will be involved too. So we are tomorrow morning or afternoon, all three of us, the supervisor, Pilarski and myself, and PBA president are going to sit down and go through and make sure we get a memorandum signed so that we can move forward with this. But we want to make sure we have that MOU signed first before going through with the resolution. So everybody's here. You can hold us to that. It's going to be done tomorrow. And I think it's important to get that done for many different reasons. And I'd be more than happy to talk with anybody afterwards for any opposition or things that you think might not make that work. So, thank you.
Yep, my comments on this item. At the last meeting, I was one of the board members that tabled because of the MOU. After that meeting, I reached out to the sponsors of the resolution, made clear the MOU language was not sufficient from my point of view to be clear enough and solid enough. I did mention that to them. We got back to this meeting. There's still a little bit more work to do on the MOU issue from my vantage point. And I've spoken to the members of this organization about my views on residency in a practical and philosophical way. They haven't changed between board meetings. They haven't changed since the last time I spoke to all of you. Once we get that MOU language buttoned up, we can bring this up. I'm willing to bring this up as a sponsor of the next meeting even. It's just, I don't think we're in a position right now with the supporting documentation put in front of me that I've seen that could be comfortable voting on this item tonight. And I know you talked about bringing this up to the next meeting. You alluded to that in your comments. I'm saying the same here. I've had a chance to speak with the police chief between meetings, the president of the PBA between meetings, sponsors on the item. I'm working on good faith with these folks to get this done. And I recognize the need for it, and I won't get into that any further here. That's all I've got to say.
I'd like to comment.
Sure.
So this resolution is the compromise. We've had 2 meetings to decide and discuss this. So to me, I just see it exactly that, kicking the can down the road and the procrastination. I mean, if we really wanted to make this happen, it would have happened. And let's face it, it's not getting easier to police in this town with the crime rate going up. We got people that are going to Rochester and Orchard Park and other agencies because, you know, who could blame them? You know, it's a better, you know, paying position with probably less stress and a lot of other things. I personally don't think we do enough for our police here in the town of Cheektowaga. I have to say we have some of the best police in the business, and I think not getting this done today is a complete slap in the face to them.
Any other comments?
Yes, Brian, I think the whole issue, and this is kind of relative to what we had talked about earlier. We've got a resolution here, but we have no agreement with the police club. I was sent one, I do believe this one was sent to me on the 21st of March. There's no signature on it, no names, no details. I can't see personally myself voting on a resolution and then we're going to make the deal after the fact. I don't think anybody with any amount of common sense would even consider doing that. And I will entertain it, but I want to see a memorandum of agreement first. Sent and signed to us before we can even entertain the thoughts of passing it. Now, it's like signing a blank check.
right, well, any other council members?
Yeah, just to follow up on that, like I said, if this is not taken care of this week and MOU is not signed by our parties, based on what I said earlier, I mean, I'll put this resolution forth every single week until it gets done, so,
Okay. Where's the MOU?
I'm sorry.
Where is the memorandum of understanding?
Well, I mean, you've been on this board for a long time. You've had this opportunity to do this and didn't offer any guidance or assistance in doing this besides.
That has
shutting it down,
nothing to do with, we don't have a memorandum.
All right, so moving forward here, I know Councilmember Jazinski called for a roll call vote. I don't want a roll call vote because it'll fail. I don't want it to be pulled because it won't come back to the table. So I'd like to keep it on the plate and I'll make a motion to table it one more time.
A motion to table.
I would be okay with that.
Is that a second to
Yep,
table?
works for me.
Got a second from Councilmember Thompson. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed to tabling? All right. Motion is tabled.
That's the end of the tabled items. We have a motion by Supervisor Noah, seconded by Councilmember Kaminsky to vote on all items on the consent agenda, including the meeting minutes of March 12, 2024, and resolution items 2024-143 through 168. I need a roll call vote to vote to approve the consent agenda items. We are recognizing that resolution items 148, 149, and 151 were pulled and will be taken as separate items. I need a roll call vote. Councilmember Bukowski? Yes. Councilmember Jazinski?
Yes.
Councilmember Kaminsky?
Yes.
Councilmember Kolarski?
Yes.
Councilmember Thompson?
Yes.
Supervisor Noah?
Yes. Before we move further, I'd like to suspend the rules and invite the chief of police to the podium. Give my apologies for us not dealing with this at the beginning of the meeting, but we did pass a resolution hiring a new dispatcher. And so I'd like to, you can.
So good evening. I'd like to introduce you to our new safety dispatcher, Thomas Brennan. He's a lifelong resident of the town. He's currently employed with the New York State Corrections for 5 years. And he's a volunteer firefighter for the Forks Fire Department and past chief for them. Dispatchers are an important part of our work. Our officers on the road rely on our dispatchers. And we are looking forward to having the professionalism of Mr. Brennan joining the group and helping keeping our officers safe. So thank you.
Got a great background for the job.
Congratulations.
Thank you for joining. Thank you.
Thank you.
Separate resolution items 2024-148, sponsored by Supervisor Noah, seconded by Councilmember Kaminsky, an increase of improvement of facilities of the consolidated sewer district in the town of Chickawaga. In connection, let's see. Prepare a map plan and report of increased improvement of facilities of districts consisting of replacement or repair of sanitary sewers, including related or ancillary work in connection thereof, at an estimated maximum cost of $3,950,000.
On this item, the money being sought to bond, if we pass this resolution, would help to fund the DEC consent order that the town is under and the obligations we have to improve our sewer systems here. I understand positions on the prior bond resolutions. The stakes are much higher with this one. And I think we put the town in serious peril if we don't have a plan to fund the work on the DEC consent order. I know the board members up here, even our new members, recognize that. My concern is that we don't have enough funding to get us through the year in highway paving now, and we're talking about looking to reserves for funding on the other sewer work. It's my hope that on this item, recognizing how dire the DEC consent order is, that this one will secure passage. Any other council members have comments?
Yes.
Councilmember Jazinski.
Yeah, I'd like to see a separate resolution with just the DEC consent order item on it and, broken out of this one. I'd like to see a separate resolution for that.
Respectfully, this item is DEC consent order related. The majority of the funding is for that. And we've already had paperwork provided to us on the breakdown of the funds and the cost here, and it was explained in this. So I think what you're asking for already exists.
Yes,
And-
but it's only a portion of it. There's only a portion of the consent order that's a part of this resolution. So I'd like to see a separate resolution stating the DEC consent order and what that consists of. What is the work that needs to be done under that consent order for the public to see?
Any other council members? Yes.
I would like to, thank you. I would like to second that also. I've asked for that. So I would be waiting to see that information as well.
It's, I have a sheet here, it was given to us.
But on a separate resolution,
Understood. Any other
Please.
council members? All right,
Well, I think, Brian, not to interrupt, a lot of this is time sensitive. And it's like I said, as far as costs go, I guess there's absolutely no trust in the people that work for this town of Chickasaw. Our engineering department, our highway department, we've got a multitude of fantastic people that have done a great job over the years. And all we're doing is piling more work on their back so they can't get the jobs done that need to be done, which in turn is gonna cost us more money. And it's like I said, the only way I could put this is nickel and diming everything. And it's like I said, I don't think anybody can put a rock solid, dead nuts, 12-cent total on the end of any figure to say exactly what it is going to cost. Especially, and I said this a multitude of times, especially when you're dealing with anything in the ground. My dad was involved in a construction business. You know how we found out a lot of stuff that was in the ground? Is when we dug it up. Not before. You can't see through the ground. And to put all these people through this, I'd much rather see them spend their time, which is money, getting the job done, rather than wasting their time on paperwork, special resolutions. This is not like running a business when I sign purchase orders and checks for everything. It doesn't work. And even being in business, and I don't care who it is, whether it's me or Joe Blow down the street, whoever it is, or it's a Burger King. If you don't trust your employees, you're dead in the water. Absolutely dead in the water.
I thought there was some funding set aside for the DEC consent order. I thought last year there was talks about some funding that was set aside for that.
I do believe there was under some of the ARP funds, but the biggest thing, we've been into this consent order. Mark, can you correct me if I'm wrong? Is this our 10th year?
This will be our 10th year, correct?
We spent over what? $50 million?
Correct.
At least. I don't have the exact numbers. And the biggest thing, everything with the DEC, whether anybody likes it or not, their clock is always running. They could care less what we say, what we do. If this is not completed in a timely manner, they could fine us, I think somebody always used the term $10,000 a day per violation, which can be very costly. And my understanding is from the federal level, they may be passing that they can fine any municipality up to $42,500 per day per violation. It doesn't take much to eat up the cost of what we need to do. You know, and like I said, to nitpick this stuff, it's something we did not dream up. This is a state order. We don't have much
That's why
choice.
we want it separate so we can do.
Yeah, where's the ARPA funding for this DEC consent order? I remember 2 Februarys ago, we were talking about that when we were getting the 25 million, that there was in that spreadsheet that there was ARPA funding available that we were going to use to allocate for this project. What portion of that ARPA funding are we not using for this? Because I distinctively remember that spreadsheet that we had that we were allocating some of the ARPA funds for this. So
To give you an
where is it?
example, the remaining ARPA funds, there's a pilot project that has been proposed in one of the neighborhoods of our town in the amount, in excess of $5 million of ARPA funds to do some lining relating to the homes and to do some inspections inside homes to make sure that the water is draining properly and not getting into our sanitary system. So we have the money earmarked and set aside for that. That is a majority of the ARPA funds that are still actually in accounts, not physically spent yet. But the question of, we'd like to see this itemized. I'd be happy to sponsor or second an amendment to the resolution that says what's right here on the sheet of paper that was handed to board members a month ago, that $2 million of this bond would go to sanitary sewer repairs related to DEC consent order. That 1.437 would go to additional costs for lining sewer sheds 9 and 10. WQIP grants cover 3 covers 5 million of that. That's also DC related, correct?
Correct.
So that is 3.5 of the 3.9. The remainder is for the Genesee Street pump station replacement that we would be getting reimbursement for that has been discussed in the past. The board knows this documentation has been provided to us. We are aware of it. If there's going to be an amendment to put it in here, I'm happy to support that to make it crystal clear in public. And we can delineate that right now and the public would know where the funding is going.
There was millions of dollars that was designed for that DEC consent order. So I'm just questioning, if we had millions of dollars that were, designed for the, DEC consent order, where's that funding?
That grant money is coming already and is spoken for, has gone to the first 8 sewer sheds. And then the rest of it is set aside for funding related to the internal.
Yes. Is that sewer shed, is that part of the DEC consent order?
Yes, it is. All 10 are.
Okay, does it say it on that resolution?
It doesn't, but it could. Would you like to offer an amendment?
So I think we should have it tabled until we get the language right, like others that we were uncertain of. We tabled the police, so why don't we just table this as well?
Is there a motion to table?
I make a motion to table it. Can I get a second?
Second from Councilmember Thompson. And, all right. Thank you, guys. We have the motion, the resolution's already tabled, so unfortunately, we gotta move on.
Okay.
There is another bonding item after that.
Resolution 2024-149 is sponsored by Supervisor Nowak, seconded by Councilmember Kaminsky. Bond resolution of the Town of Chickawaga, New York, adopted March 26, 2024, appropriating $500,000 for the increase and improvement of facilities of the Consolidated Sewer District and authorizing the issuance of $500,000 bonds of said town to finance said appropriation.
This is related to the prior item. Again, DC related. We have the list in front of us and have had it for a month. I have nothing else to say. Any other council members?
Me neither.
Yep, Councilmember Thompson.
You said this was related to that, so I'm going to speak on both of them.
Sure.
You said it was 3.8 of that was DEC work. Is that correct?
I've got it at 3.437 on the spreadsheet here.
Okay, I apologize. You said 3.8 and I saw 3.9. So if it was $150,000 difference to get that Genesee Street pump fixed, I'd be okay with that. But if not all of it is for DEC consent, if there's $150,000 missing and the majority, the rest of it is DEC consent, I'd be okay with that. But I think the issue is, it doesn't have that language in there to say this is DEC consent, and that is something that I've been asking for quite some time. I know we've had these lists, but I've wanted that language in there. So I myself personally can say, okay, this amount is specifically for that, and now we can look at the rest.
Yeah.
So I've been asking for that language, so if we can.
This one.
do that, that would be great. So,
Make a motion to table it.
We have a second? Councilmember Bukowski. All right.
We have resolution 2024-151 is sponsored by Councilmember Thompson, seconded by Councilmember Jazinski. Whereas on October 21st, 1985, by way of general legislation, the town of Chickawaga adopted Article 2, Senior Citizens Exemption of the Town of Chickawaga Taxation Law as Chapter 69 of the year 1985, grant a partial exemption from taxation to the extent of 50% of the assessed valuation of real property which is owned by certain persons with a limited income who are 65 years of age or over, meeting the requirements set forth in real property tax law 467. The town is required to hold a public hearing to obtain views and comments of town residents, public agencies, and other interested parties. A public hearing will be held on April 9, 2024 at 7 p.m. in the town of Chickawaga to support for the above stated purpose.
All right, on the item, you wish to speak first? Mover, then the second.
Sure.
Traditionally get the opportunity to speak first.
Thank you. So for this, it's a public hearing to discuss a local law that is going to give seniors an exemption to the fullest extent that it is by law in the town of Cheektowaga. And I think that's important since it's the majority of the individuals in this town, especially when we have such pressing issues that are going to continue to raise taxes. And you have a lot of seniors in this town that are on fixed incomes and cannot keep up with the spending that is sometimes needed. I would happily pay more in taxes so that seniors in this town that are on fixed incomes do not have to bear that burden. I'm sure there's maybe some language that you may want to add in there to say maybe you lived in the town for a time period. That's just my guess. But as it stands, I support anything we can do to get this moving forward. Thank you.
Yeah. Councilmember Jazinski, you're the second. Would you like to speak on the item?
Yes, please. So there's going to come a day when everybody in that room is going to be not able to work. They're going to be on a fixed income. So these are the people that came to me when I campaigned to become a town board member. This is one of the number one things that I campaigned on, was helping our seniors, because there's seniors that have came up to me and said, Michael, I can't even afford food. I can't afford my bills. How in the hell am I going to be able to afford my taxes? So I personally think we have our priorities mixed up. We need to take care of the people who built Cheektowaga, the senior population who made this town the great place it is today. We have people that have came to this town that didn't come to this country legally, that they're getting the red carpet rolled out for them. But we're telling our seniors, heck with you, you're not important. And, we're going to make it even harder on you. When you're a senior citizen, life gets harder. It doesn't get easier. And to have a tax burden, I know personally a lot of seniors that, are years behind on their taxes. In fact, a large portion of the houses that are foreclosed in this town are by people 65 or older. To me, that's a problem. So we need to take care of the people who built this town, who invested the tax dollars into this town to make it the great place it is today. And those are the people that we need to take care of, because I know everybody in this room, if you're going to live in Cheektowaga, you're going to thank myself and Councilmember Thompson that we worked on trying to get this through. So.
All right. I'd like to speak on the item. I'm in favor of the public hearing. I think we should have it. But before getting into that, I think the public should know that we've had a few of these resolutions go through the board already. 2022-139, that raised the maximum exemption at 5% to $26,899. We had 2022-498, that was the local law number 4 that's cited. That raised the top exemption to $37,399. We had 2023-164, that was local law of 4 of 2023. Mr. Jazinski and I sponsored that one together. That raised the top exemption to $40,000. And we have local law number 5 of 2023-391, that has the current exemptions on the schedule from $40,000 to 48,399. So we have done this board in the last 2 years, at the advice and direction of our assessor and changes to laws, and at the urging of folks in the public, has on multiple occasions increased these limits. I think we should have a public hearing on increasing them again. It's worth the discussion. It's worth hearing people's opinions. So I'm a yes on this. Anybody else?
Well, I'm all for the public hearing too, and I guess I can say this out loud because it is no secret. I'm a senior citizen, believe it or not.
Believe it.
And thanks, Rick.
Senior.
Well, it's like I said, and I've just got a feeling, and I really even hate to say this publicly, that political promises have been made out loud, even to me, that want to get rid of all taxes on people over 65. I'm sure a lot of people in this room has got grandchildren. Do you think they're gonna want to live in Cheektowaga and totally support their neighbor in taxes from across the street because he's 66 and a half years old?
Yeah, but we can bond for 30 years for a road that lasts 10 years, Jerry.
Would you mind not interrupting me, Michael?
No problem, Gerald.
And it's like I said, the biggest thing to me, how far do we go? I know couples that aren't making $58,000 a year. And I guess if I was really foolish, I could retire tomorrow, sign my business over to my 2 sons, and guess what I would be eligible for? Half of my assessment, which people tell me I live in $1 million house, don't I wish? But it's like I said, I think there's too much of a burden, and there may come a time when I may not be able to live in my house. I've got a neighbor who's 88 years old, lives by himself. His sons stop in, take care of him. He's still doing fairly well. And it's like I said, the sad part about it, all the income is not counted on a lot of these. There's certain investments and a lot of other things, trust and everything, that basically takes it out of the picture. You can't keep shifting taxes from one group of people to the other, the same as we did from businesses to residents, residents to business. It doesn't make any sense.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, all in favor?
All right.
Any
Aye.
opposed? All right.
At the end of the resolution items, I need a motion and a second to waive the rules to include resolution 2024-169. Do I have a motion?
A motion.
Second.
All in favor?
All right.
Resolution 2024-169 is sponsored by Councilmember Pulaski, seconded by Councilmember Thompson. 29 Martin Road, Cheektowaga, New York, 14215. A residential property is deteriorated and has been vacant for 6 years, with taxes being unpaid during that time, and has become available for purchase through the Buffalo Niagara Land Improvement Corporation. The purchase of 29 Martin Road will support the town's goals of neighborhood stabilization and preservation pursuant to federal program regulations and program guidelines established by the Town Office of Community Development. The Town Board here authorizes and directs the Town Supervisor to enter into contract to purchase 29 Martin Road.
On the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, carries.
That's the end of our resolution items. Communication submitted to the Town Clerk's office from departments is meeting minutes from the Veterans Affairs Committee of March 6, 2024, and the meeting minutes of the Conservation Advisory Council of March 7, 2024. General communications includes one notice of claim.
All right, that supervisor's comments. I've got a few tonight. March 31st is going to commemorate 70 years since the fire at Cleveland Hills School. This past Thursday, the county legislature made recognition of 331 every day as a day of remembrance. They had students from the government club at Cleveland School there because as a result of that school fire drills, the types of windows in the building and the size, school construction methods, and communication between schools and fire departments were all changed. And since then, there has not been a school-related fire that has killed any student in New York State. I wanted to recognize that our police department achieved accreditation between the last 2 meetings That's a lot of work for the police chief, our captains, and everybody involved in that. I know Barbara Bukowski was among those that thanked them for that, but it takes a lot of work, and it's not something that you start a month before you get accredited. You got to work on it for several years beforehand. It makes sure that our officer, it's a recognition that our officers are trained at or beyond New York State minimum standards. It helps us to secure grants and funds, and it's a marker to show that our police department is professional, knows what they're doing, is getting the training that they need, and is professional each and every day. Easter's coming up, so want to wish everybody a happy Easter. I mentioned the EMS study there. And lastly, relating to the bonds, I'm sure the audience can see that we had strong differences of opinion up here tonight. I'm personally disappointed that we are where we are in that regard, but it's a democracy, right? So we each get elected by all the folks we work for. They give us our marching orders. They tell us what they want to see. And we may interpret that a little bit differently, or maybe we may have different constituencies, but, Councilmember Bukowski and Councilmember Thompson, they're good people, even though we were on opposite sides of the issue. I've had an opportunity to get to know them the last 3 months. They're working in good faith. They're taking these issues seriously. Again, I might not like where we are here, but that's not a reflection on their personality or their character. They're here doing what they think is best for the taxpayers. So when we're back here at the next meeting, I'm sure in between, we're going to work on some other issues. We're going to get a lot of good done together. This may not be the issue today, but that's all right. We'll be allies on something else down the road. That's all I got. Anyone else?
Yeah, I like to say something.
Sure.
I just want to set the record straight. I am not against bonding, and I'm not against not doing projects that need to be done. But we have a budget, okay? What I'd like to try and do is work with the highway department, get a list of prioritizing our work. What really needs to be done in highway with the paving, as well as with engineering with the sewers. We can still come up with something. And I would like to see if we can maybe have a special meeting where we can hash this all out. Because I know the work needs to be done, but we don't have the money. But what I don't want to see is borrow only $5 million for 40 years. That's ridiculous. We can come up with some other kind of ideas, I'm sure. Maybe we can use some of the special funds if there's anything available. But we got to just work together, prioritize. I have what's given the bonding list, okay? There's going to be some bonds that are going to fall off, meaning we pay them off next year in 2025. So what we don't get done maybe this year, we'll just cut half of maybe what we want to do this year. But then next year with the bonds coming off, we can bond then again and not just keep spending and paying this interest. I am for the people. I am for what needs to be done. I want to see our highway boys and girls working. And I want to see the improvements in our town. And I just think we can do this together as a board, have a special meeting and work this out.
Any other board members?
Yes,
Councilmember Jazinski.
I would have to agree with you, Mr. Nowak. Councilmember Thompson and Ms. Barb Bukowski are exceptional people. They were voted in by their constituents, as I have, and raising taxes is something that we're adamantly against. But in the same sentence, we're also, as Ms. Bukowski said, we are in, fixing the roads and fixing our infrastructure, but we have to do it within our means. We shouldn't have to bond out for something that my grandchildren are going to end up having to pay. The deficit in this country just keeps on spinning and spinning and spinning. And, when does it stop? So I think we need to be fiscally accountable to our constituents. We do need to do the work, certain work, but we also need to prioritize and do it within, the means, because everybody in that room, including me, have to live with less. We live with less in our life because of the rate of inflation and the cost of food and everything. And to the senior exemption thing, these are the people who have paid their taxes in this town, since they bought their house in the town of Cheektowaga. Some have lived in this town 50, 60, 70 years, 80 years, maybe, some were born here. So these are the people that we need to consider, taking care of, because these are the exact people that are being taxed out of their houses. And what does it matter if, we have to, pave their roads if they can't even live in the house and afford the house they currently live in? They paid their taxes. These are people that paid off their house 20 some years ago that now are being taxed out of their house. So yes, the bills have to be paid, the roads need to be paved. But and another thing is though, I know the comments have been made that the first responders, will have issues getting to these roads. Well, I've talked to at least 10 first responders that said, Mike, no way in hell are we ever going to have issue getting down these roads. Yeah, there's some potholes and stuff, but our worst road in Cheektowaga is better than a lot of roads in the city of Buffalo. And that's not even taking a shot at the city of Buffalo, because they have their issues as well. But, we need to be fiscally accountable. We need to tighten up our belts. We need to look at this, in a way that is beneficial to everybody, not just a certain group of people. And, we need to just do this the right way. And I think we need to be better planning. And as it's been mentioned before in the past, we're horrible at discussing things, because it's always in the 11th hour that we're always trying to make decisions on this stuff, and it's being shoved down everybody's throats. Well, I'll be the first one to say, hey, my phone's on, because I tell you what, and Vern could, and Barb could attest to it, that I answer my phone at least 95% of the time, and I'm usually good at calling you back. So I encourage you, Mr. Nowak and Mr. Pilarski and Kaminsky, by all means, if you want to work on this, I'm all in 100%, but we need to do something, and we need to do it soon, because the projectile that we're on, it's not right. It's not fair to us, and it's not fair to the constituents and the people who voted for us in this town.
The council member, the insinuation that the work ethic is lacking from some of us up here.
Not an insinuation, Brian. It's exactly 100% the truth. So don't put words in my mouth. It's 100% the truth.
And this is par for the course with the way you've behaved for the last 3 months, is to just insult.
And your behavior's not good either. So I'll call you out on what you call me out on. Your behavior's not the best either. You don't always make the best decisions too. So, we're not going to go tit for tat. I've extended the olive branch. I said, let's work on this. And that's what I'm doing. You want to work on this? You know how to reach me. I'll be more than happy to have a cordial conversation and try to discuss these, these issues that we need to hash out. That's what I'm saying.
Again, it's over and over every meeting that you're insulting board members. If that's the tact you want to take, that's your right, but it's not going to help us solve our problem.
I'm calling it for what it is, Mr. Nowak. It's not insulting. It's calling it for what it is. I'm not trying to, change the wording. You're trying to manipulate my words. I am not attacking you. I'm asking you as a board member, I would love to work on these issues.
I would invite you to come to the next board meeting in person. Any other board members? Yeah, correct.
Yes, just the comments on a couple things. Mr. Nowicki mentioned about we've been bonding for thousands of years, and infrastructure is still crumbling. So if we're doing this every single year, bonding, this just proved my point. I'm okay with it, but we need to be responsible and not just say, let's do it for $5 million because, we need to do this, and that. Let's get something itemized and see what we can prioritize, like those pictures that she posted. I mean, it's embarrassing. And it's not even in question to be done this year. So
should be the first road we fix.
Just think it's, I'd be the first. I'm always available as well, phone calls, anything. I'd like to try and get this stuff done. And like Councilmember Bukowski mentioned, if you want to call for a special meeting, I can arrange. I think these items are important. I would be okay with trying to arrange something in the next, even in between the next meeting, to try and have time to discuss these things because they are critical. I would be open to that.
It takes any 2 board members to call for a special meeting. I'll answer the call immediately. We'll get something on the calendar. Any other board members?
So I really was gonna sit here and be quiet and just say Happy Easter and just remember the reason for the season here, that it's marks the resurrection
You gotta
of
say
our
it,
Lord and
Jesus is the
Savior
reason for the
Jesus,
season.
But with a jab being thrown at me, I can't be a bigger person, I guess. Mr. Jazinski, please show up to our board meetings in person. Please show up to our executive sessions when we're getting business done and talking about these exact things like resolutions. And don't walk out the front door when we say, hey, we're going into executive session, and you say, I'm not going back there. So don't put the blame on any of us sitting up here, because everybody sitting up here has shown up to every executive session. We've shown up to attorney-client privilege calls for lawsuits and that.
Am I
which
not on this
do
meeting? Am I not on this meeting?
illegally, but we're
No,
showing
I'm
you
not. It's on the
everything.
resolution. It clearly says that we could zoom in. I apologize. I'm out of town
Councilmember
with my.
Jazinski, you had your time. It is Mr.
So you just come up here and throw
Well,
blows at
no, I mean, I'm going to be
recognized.
recognized too, Mr. Nowak, because I'm tired of you doing that. You're not going to take the last shot at me. I said I'm willing to work with you, Mr. Pilarski, and you don't want to work with me. This isn't about taking shots. This is about you working with me. I'm saying I want to work with you. You're taking shots at me.
Work together.
That's what you're good at, just taking shots and deflection. Let's work on this. Let's not take shots. Let's work on this.
Is the guy sick or something? Why ain't he at the meeting?
Brian, would you like to
Because I have a
begin?
real job. I don't, this isn't my first job, Dave.
Mr. Jazinski, so that way he can actually.
Oh, wait a minute. None of us ever worked in our lives? Whoa. If he can jump ship, we can jump ship.
So I don't have a real.
So wait a minute. I didn't work for a living 45 years. I put the same guy in place.
In all fairness.
Hold on.
He's saying we don't work for taxpayers? Thank you.
Pull it together here. It's-
That's harder than Diana ever
It's
did.
jabs like that that just annoy the hell out of me up here, that, I don't have a real job. Our finance director doesn't, have a high school education, because any high schooler can come in. Just jabs like that drive me nuts, and this is why stuff does not get done, at least with Mr. Jazinski. Vern and I meet every other week, all right? We go over issues. Barbara and I meet every couple of weeks in addition to Veterans Affairs Committee meetings. It's not a party thing, it's a person thing, all right? The person on that Zoom right there is very toxic for the rest of us. I believe that we will get stuff done amongst us. I don't think so with him.
We're gonna, just a moment. We shouldn't make a practice of muting a board member on Zoom, but it's special circumstances. Can we unmute Mr. Jazinski and give the floor to Mr. Thompson? It is a public comment period. You had one. And I'll give you have one more.
I appreciate it. I'm not gonna condone remarks from anybody, obviously people say things, they don't mean, I would like to think. And I know Councilmember Jazinski does have a new job. He just started and he does have trainings out of town. Of course, I'm not there with him, but this is what he did tell me. That's why he's not here. I'm sure maybe he doesn't want to put all of his business out there. One of the things I mentioned coming to this board, I hate to see this crap, everybody arguing, bickering, we're adults, we're representing the town. We may not like each other or, what we're wearing, what we look like. It doesn't matter. You may disagree, but you gotta figure this stuff out. You can't just bicker back and forth. I mean, it's embarrassing. We gotta be better. And that's one of the main things I'll say. The next board meeting is April 9th, I believe.
April 9th.
Which there's an eclipse coming up the
The
day
eighth.
before. The day before. I don't know if you want to mention, I know people are going crazy and shutting stuff down. Supervisor, you want to just.
Pay attention to local media, town social media. Our emergency manager updates that. For updates on the eclipse, everything says we're gonna have a bunch of traffic flooding into the town of Cheektowaga to enjoy what's hopefully not clouded by sun eclipse. So I would just look forward for best practices. A lot of folks, school's been canceled, there's certain employers that have closed. Do what you can to stay home that day and off our roads, especially after 12 o'clock. As I said, we're expecting a huge influx of folks and traffic on that.
And just throw that in.
It's all good, it's all good. Anybody else before we get to public comment? Mr. Kaminsky, your turn.
Thank you, sir. I won't scream and yell either. But I think, I don't even know how to put this anymore. But, there's nights I sit up here, I'm afraid to even stop in a restaurant or a bar for the sake of being laughed at. Because this has been known all over Western New York. Actually, as far west as Sacramento, California, where people watch our board meetings not to see what's going on, to laugh at us. It's a joke. It's a joke all over the southern tier. It's a joke all over this area. It's a joke in the city of Buffalo. I put up with customers every day that come into my shop and laugh at the circus in the town of Cheektowaga. And basically, some of the remarks that were made tonight. Listen, I understand politics. I've been on both sides. I was a Republican. I'm a Democrat. So what? You know what I am when I sit here? I represent the people, all of them, whether they're Republicans, Democrats, Independents, or wherever they come from, whatever their religion it is. And the biggest thing, somebody just said it, we dislike each other. I do not dislike anybody. I do not hate anybody. I don't like what people do. And one thing I absolutely despise is a bully and a big mouth that you can't talk to under any circumstances, then has the unadulterated nerve to get up here and speak all over the world on YouTube to basically tell us what a wonderful person he is after his experience with all of us. It is no doubt in my mind. There's a lot of hatred in a man's heart. I don't care what anybody says. And it's like I said, this goes on and on and on to the point, you know, and somebody said it early on, keep the politics out of it. Well, and this is my personal feeling, and damn it, I'm gonna say it tonight. This is all about trying to make our new supervisor, because somebody lost an election, to try and make them look bad, which is the biggest bunch of crap I have ever seen in my life. Where if you're gonna be a man, the least you can do is say, okay, I came in second place, I lost, thank you, and just walk away. But that will never happen in the town of Cheektowaga anymore. And you know who's suffering for all this?
Taxpayers.
You, Dave, you, Wally, every single, Donnie Friedrich in the back of the room. Do you realize what jackasses we look like in front of the world? How far it goes, I do not know. And as far as all this crap, damn, I'll tell you something. Being in business is a struggle, but it's a hell of a lot easier than sitting here every Tuesday night and listen to the BS that there is no reason for. Somebody's creating all this. Everything is no, no, no. And I'll tell you, the biggest thing I'm really upset about, we have mismanaged the money in the town. Nobody in this town knows what in the hell they're doing. From our engineering department, our highway workers, our finance man, I guess they're basically all idiots. We have got the best credit rating out of most towns in this whole end of the state. In fact, mostly in the whole state. And what do? We criticize it. How many, I don't know how many people, even people sitting on a board, ever went to accounting school, bookkeeping, engineering, although a lot of them make totally false claims. I'm not no accountant, but I'll tell you, I've been in business for 53 years, and if I didn't know how to handle finances, I still would not be in business. But it's like I said, it's very, very easy to condemn everybody. Now, and it's like I said, I'm going to pick up where Mr. Pilarski was. Attorney-client meetings, Mr. Jasinski doesn't come to. Don't know where he's sitting tonight. He's got another new job. And basically, I think Vern said, it's none of our business. That is everybody's business, where every single taxpayer in this town should know what every one of us do and where we work. Why would it be a secret? I mean, somebody ashamed of where they work? I'm certainly not. Now, this is not me during the day. I'm actually in work clothes, believe it or not. But it's like I said, it goes on and on and on. And you know what? It's like a rotten apple in a bushel. It's gonna spread. Thank you. Have a nice Easter.
Anybody else? With that, I'm gonna grab the sheet there. You wanna speed this up, huh?
I'm actually gonna slow it down, seeing how long that list
That's your
is.
job,
I
man.
want to make a motion to go over the 15 minutes if need be.
No, we gotta go by the rules. It's only 15 minutes, 5 people.
We'll extend, yeah, make a motion to
I
extend.
would make a motion. to
Just
extend
ask me
that.
if I'll second.
Yeah.
Gonna. All right, the first we have signed up for afterwards comments is Gary Bork.
find a way to compromise on the bonding. Erie County Legislature was able to do it. You've got differences, sit down, quit being at the end, quit insisting it's our way or no way. Maybe it's 10 years instead of 20 or 15. Maybe it's less money instead of all this. Maybe it's a combination of some of the funds that are reserved and the bonding, but find a way to compromise. I personally don't think there's anything wrong with vigorous debate between people with differences. It's not laughing, it's what we should expect from you. I mentioned before, if you remember that concrete contract that turned out to be fraudulent? Yeah, somebody on the board weren't looking then. It's a good thing we have people looking. Jerry's right. You need an MOU before you can agree to it. Require them to give you the MOU before you vote on it. Easy solution to the purchase of property. Every real estate agent knows that they cannot draw contracts. They have to use the Erie County Bar contract that is, guess what? Subject to attorney approval. Simple agreement. You can sell a piece of property as long as it says subject to town board approval. Then you bring the contract to the town board and you vote on it. If you vote for it, we buy it. If you don't vote for it, we don't buy it. The other side knows that's the rule. It's simple. The DEC thing, I'm sitting there thinking, all right, it would make more sense to have all the DEC money in one resolution. Maybe though, if you're only adding, a couple $100,000, it makes more sense to have it as one bond. So you got to work that one out. Maybe it's impossible to have a bond just for a couple $100,000, so you're going to throw the one thing you want to bond into it. I understand that. But I want to correct the history on the senior exemption. The proposal last year was to increase to 50. When you did it 2 years ago, I suggested you go to 50. With the first time you did it, the 50,000 law was in effect. You ignored it. So it's not like you did it. You've done these in little steps. There's no reason for us not to be at the maximum. It should be at the maximum. And those past ones, you actually dropped it from 50 to 40 because the original proposal was to go to 50. You voted to amend it to go back to 40. Thank you.
Thank you. Heather All, you're up.
I just want to speak on the senior tax exemption. I think there's a lot of different kinds of seniors. Some of them have good pensions after, retiring from a job for 40 years, for example. Some are on fixed incomes. Same with younger people. Younger people can't all afford high taxes, so that seniors get a break. On my street, a neighbor of mine who lived in this house her entire life, her house was foreclosed on because she got totally behind on the taxes and it foreclosed. She's still living in it. Now she's renting from the new landlord. And it's just kind of a mess. She doesn't know what to do. But to be honest, it's not only the taxes. I mean, there's home repairs. I mean, you have to actually her roof is bad. She, had some company come in and do a whole bunch of work in her basement with her, water heater and plumbing and all this other stuff. And then, they, now she's like paying a loan on that. I mean, it's like stuff adds up, and she, has lived there by herself since her parents passed away in that she took care of also in the house. So she's lost her house, not really because of the taxes necessarily, but because just it's cost a lot of money to do the maintenance. And so another story she's told is that all the old Polish people on the street, for all the years she's lived there, the house has looked worse and worse and worse. All the old Polish people eventually died and went away, or moved away or whatnot. And the neighborhood did not start coming back until the younger Black families started moving in. They bought the homes, they fixed them up, they had families. The street came alive again because of, new young families moving in. So, I think another aspect of seniors' needs or senior housing is also the availability of senior housing communities. My dad is 94. He just was moved out to California to live near my sister, and he's got a wonderful community he lives in now. He lived in Texas prior to that in a senior facility, or actually not a senior, it was a 55 and older like senior living place where he had a pool and they had potlucks and parties and all kinds of things. And this was in his late 80s up until just recently. He had a community. And so I've been trying to, help my friend and neighbor sort of find her next place. But I think that there might be a need for more senior services, more outreach, more helping seniors. Like before she lost her house, I don't know why nobody like, I don't know when, like if a senior is like so behind on their taxes that it's about to go to foreclosure, it seems like someone should step in and knock on their door, you know, what's going on? Like she was in such a panic, she didn't even open her mail. So I just think that there's, you know, there's benefits to also helping seniors find other, you know, more appropriate and maybe more community-minded places to live. So thanks.
Thank you. Stephen Nowicki, you're next up.
Stephen Nowicki. If we could by next meeting come up with a solution to fund our road and sewer work deemed necessary by this board, considering the town citizens' comments, I think it would be beneficial. It appears there's a general consensus to fund the roads and sewers, and I would ask of you to amend or create a new resolution to fix the amount of roads and sewers that would receive a passing vote. Specifically, the members who are opposing currently passing, I implore you to create a list of the roads and sewers that you think would be of a similar cost and work hour expenditure. Councilmember Bukowski, I really like your proposal for setting up one of those separate meetings for that. I think that would be great for getting things pushed forward. Learning to live with less is something I heard earlier tonight. Worker productivity has increased over 400% since roughly the 1970s, while real wages have increased roughly 5% respective to inflation. We as a society produce more than ever now in both output and efficiency. To say we, the people of this town, should expect less while doing more than ever is grossly inappropriate. This is not rationing during World War II or the Great Depression. We as the citizens have no reason to live with less. The large corporations in our towns are seeing record profits year over year while our sewers and roads crumble. We deserve better than this. Now, Councilmember Kaminsky, I know your $1 million home that you're living in. I don't know your number, so I'm not going to include you in that. But we deserve better than to expect to live with less in the times we're at. Finally, specifically Councilmember Jasinski, in my eyes, you are an embarrassment to this board. If you cannot control your attitude, I implore you to step down. To the members of this board in this room, I thank you for your service.
Dan Collender.
Mr. Kraus, you're probably gonna want to pay attention to this because it's gonna involve you too. Okay, looking at that 22 annual comprehensive financial report, and if you're going, you're probably going to do some homework, look this up. Going around page 57-ish. It said approximately we have about $45 million in debt. Okay. I believe Brian Nowak said this week or in his Sunday thing that we had another 25 million worth of bonding last year. So what's 25 and 40? It's at 70. Okay, so $70 million in debt. We have a $103 million budget. That ratio just don't seem right to me. Let's try and borrow for less. Mr. Kraus, there is a statement on the agenda that says, third, determining and stating the period of probable usefulness applicable to the purchase for which said bonds are authorized to be issued is 40 years. Okay, you stated tonight, we do not bond for 40 years.
That's correct. That's a true statement. Thank you.
Okay, so does that say we're gonna bond for 40 years? It doesn't? Please clarify.
It says the period of probable usefulness of that product is 40 years.
Okay, so do you?
We are allowed to do 40 years of debt. We don't.
Okay, then why does the resolution not state exactly how long we're bonding for then, if that's the case? It says it will exceed 5 years and it says 40 years. Why can't we get an exact number? It's just like Mike Jasinski says, why? Give us some details. You people are not giving us details. That leads to speculation. Speculation leads to rumors. We don't need none of that. Just supply us with exact details. Are you gonna bond it
You're
for
good at
30?
providing the rumors.
Are you gonna bond it for 20?
Yes.
I'm providing rumors based off what's printed. You're gonna bond it for 20, you're bond it for 10. Tell us what you're gonna bond it for and tell us what the proposed interest rate is. That way we can go and calculate stuff out and we can see how much money you're gonna piss out the window in interest. Because bonding forever is a lot of interest money. Okay, and who gets the interest money? Not the taxpayers. No, not unless you're buying tax-free municipal bonds, you'll get zero benefit from the interest. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Next up, Wally Carriero.
Yeah. Supervisor Noah, thank you for wishing us a happy Easter, as well as Brian Pilarski. Thank you. Happy Easter to your families as well as everybody on the board. My comments are, we had elections and this board is now split. And that's because the residents said, hey, look, at the path we're on is not good. Okay? So it's not about driving wedges or preventing you from doing anything. It's about finding ways to do things a little bit different. Lived in my home since 1990. Didn't come to these meetings until like the last 4 years. And I watched my responsibilities increase and increase and increase. You're trying to bundle a DEC consent order that somebody said you've had in your hands for 10 years. And you're trying to bundle that all with all this other work. I'd like to see every DEC consent order separated out. And I would like to see that as a separate issue, knowing what's required for us to address. And if it's so urgent, Mr. Kaminsky, why didn't we do it 10 years ago? Don't answer. Okay? I mean, urgency. My basement's gonna flood. The streets are gonna cave in. You know the pictures that you provided us? You should go look at Heather's page. I saw Heather's pictures. Every one of Heather's pictures was worse than yours. There wasn't one picture that she posted was equal to yours.
This was of East End.
This was the picture she posted. I don't know
Yeah,
where they were.
there was a street posted that was a Buffalo.
All I know is that that neighborhood needs to be looked at. Jessica Lane, I can appreciate what I saw. Do some patching, we can get through it. Fix the sewers, we can get through it. But start looking in the parts of the city where maybe you don't live, or maybe see where people are complaining the loudest. Because at these meetings, you're hearing a lot of people show up, and a lot of people are grabbing this microphone and telling you about problems in the town, but then your issues were mandated by a consent order from 10 years ago. You know, and the last thing I want to say is every time you use the word bond, why don't you just say we're going to borrow money at interest? Because you listed off at the last board meeting, probably 20 bonds that the town has taken out over the last 5 years.
Right.
You know, that to me sounds like a teenage kid walking through the Galleria Mall, getting a credit card with interest free until the bill comes in with interest, and then the kid goes into credit debt and he can't get himself out. We can't keep borrowing. We're gonna have to either bite the bullet and increase taxes, or, you know, we're gonna have to figure out where else we're gonna live. And I know it's entertaining, but these two guys back here, and this is really the big thing, is these two guys back here, they chuckle either at the residents or the councilmen at every meeting, like we're idiots. Well, you wanna know something? That is to me disrespectful. It's disrespectful to you and everybody on this board, and it's disrespectful to us in the gallery. Thank you and have a good holiday.
Sandy Prisblack.
I wasn't gonna come tonight. But, because these meetings are just, they're so stressful for me. I'm at a loss for words of what's going on with this board. And, if you two truly want to work to get things done, you gotta stop following his lead. You just have to. I know it's a Republican versus Democrat thing. It's gone too far. This is to the point of ridiculousness. We can't get anything done in this town. If you guys know how to get the money, write your own resolution. Let us know where you're coming up with the money for these projects, if we can't bond it out. I mean, come on, man. My kids are gonna be paying for these roads and that, or they're gonna be paying when their cars fall into them and their axles are breaking and their sewer and their basements are flooding. I mean, we got to take care of these things. They have to be addressed. And yes, this DEC consent order is 10 years old, and we have been working on it. If you followed that, you'd know that. So That's all I have to say. Just very disappointed in this board right now. I really am, especially 3 members of it. Thank you.
Rick Marciano?
Might as well stand up. I wasn't gonna say anything, but. First of all, I want to thank you, Mr. Nowak, for allowing me to do invocations. Because a lot of town boards don't even do that. At least we ask the Lord to help. We need help here. We need help with this board.
Lord's gonna have to double down, sir.
Let me tell you. But, you know, this is a very holy week for Christians, for the death and resurrection of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. But I tell you what, I did not come here, I did not come to board meetings to be entertained in the way we've been entertained tonight. I don't appreciate personal attacks on anybody. You guys, we voted you in. We voted you in, and you represent us to the best of your ability. You listen to what we have to say, and we thank you for that. But the personal attacks do not belong in this board meeting. You got problems with each other, you go in there and hash it out. Not in front of us. Not in front of us. We want peace in these meetings. We deserve better than personal attacks on each one of you. No more of that. If you can't do it, then get out. Resign. Leave. We need peace here, and we want prosperity in this town. We don't need the nonsense that's going on. We were going through the nonsense for the last few years. And look at all the mess that we're in. Now there was a change because people demanded a change. Now we got a change. Now we want peace. We want you to work together. You guys hassle it out. Brian and I don't always agree on things, but we hassle it out. Jerry, I've known you for years. We don't agree on everything.
Of course we do.
Brian, no, we don't. Brian, we worked together in the Working Families Party, didn't we? We don't agree on things, but yet you came to my house. You're the only one who came to my house and sat with me and we talked about things. All right? I don't care if you're a Democrat, Republican, I don't care what you are, but I'm going to tell you something. We need to work together because we are the town of Cheektowaga. We're the residents and you represent us. Thank you and happy Easter to all of you.
Our last speaker signed up is Don Friedrich.
No, he's not.
He's last.
You're not there. Oh, you gotta add Dave.
No, he's up. I'm
Voting is yours,
last.
sir.
I'm gonna echo what Wally said.
Oh. Okay.
The gentleman in the corner was making faces, doing this while Barb was speaking. It was absolutely unprofessional. He owes her an apology. He owes all of you an apology. You didn't see it. We seen it watching him making faces, laughing while she was speaking. She didn't speak that often. It's clearly obvious he was mocking her while she was speaking. It is totally unprofessional. He owes all of you an apology. He owes all of us an apology. Totally disrespectful what he was doing the entire time she was speaking. It really bothered me. Thank you.
Lisa, we had you signed up. Like the opportunity to speak?
I'm fine.
Okay.
Brian, can I
Been
speak?
stressful with that.
Yeah. And then Dave User, yes.
I'll go.
You want to go? Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah. It's-
I do, I apologize, I did make some motions tonight, and what I was saying was, listen, because I wasn't doing like one of these things where people are saying, thinking that I'm saying someone's crazy. I'm not saying that. I'm saying people don't listen all the time here when we're talking about, again, everybody's talking about 40 years of bonding, 40 years of bonding. We don't do 40 years of bonding. So it's frustrating for me. And I do apologize for that. It's a lot of effort for me to try to inform many, many different new faces, old faces, public. So I do find it to be frustrating at times, and I do apologize for my actions tonight.
Apology accepted.
Dave User.
Hello, I watched your slideshow. You showed all different parts of town. The only part you didn't show was the southwest side of Cheektowaga. You did show Seal Drive. I lived on Seal Drive for 20 years at least.
Yeah.
Seal, Trudy, Jane, I lived there, okay? Go down Raymond Street. That was supposed to, that's already on the list to be fixed. It never got touched last year.
That was part of the initial, not to cut you off, Raymond Street was proposed. That was part of the first compromise that's been done. And you know what? I have to say this. There's talk about compromise and compromise and compromise. The bonding we're talking about is the compromise. We were talking about even more work. Even more work. And I said, let's get it down to a number between around $10 million. And we're a little over that number. We're talking about the compromise here. So framing this as we have to compromise again, I'll go back a second time. I'm a pragmatist. I reach to the middle of the differences here. And then the rug gets pulled out. So I'm a little frustrated. It's
So, that part of Cheektowaga is one of the older sections of Cheektowaga, okay? Seal, Trudy, and Jane, middle 60s. Where I live right now on Standard and all the ranches north of Wojcik, middle to later 60s. Everything on that other end, I grew up also on Headley Street, was built in the late 40s, early 50s. You live in that neighborhood. So all those houses were built in the later 40s, 50s, and early 60s. So all the infrastructure around that area is depleting. If you go down, let's see, Standard, St. Felix, Milsom, any one of them streets all along Stradman and Wojcik, the DIs are anywhere from a minimum of 6 inches to 12 inches at every intersection. That means it's being undermined. Things are collapsing underground. They need to be fixed. Go cut the corner short. On the corner a couple of years ago, I was out of town, guy got killed on a motorcycle. He may have hit one of them DIs. Right on the corners, Standard and Columbus. Guy died right there. I was out of town. I didn't find out until I came back. Look at the DIs. Go. You said you're telling me you're riding around town. You ride around town. It was the same thing I said when riding around town. We leave the meetings. Watch the streetlights. And we were paying for streetlights that don't work. We still are. When's that going to start? Again, I hear at this meeting. Well, let's table this. Let's do that. How many, Barb? I think it was you brought up about. Let's have special meetings. I'm sorry, it might have been you, Vern. I'm not sure, but. Jesus, I know one guy standing right here that said about special meetings. Have them more often. We need. Everything gets pushed aside, never been brought up again, like you brought it up. Okay? And with this tax exemption for seniors, I'm 71. I've lived here for 70 years. Okay? I could qualify probably for some of this. But when I was growing up, my family, we saved and saved. That's all I try to teach my kids. Save for your future. Okay, we did. Since I did save, now money that I can collect on my investments knocked me out of this shit. This is what it irks me because I could qualify if I didn't save nothing. But then right now I wouldn't have nothing either. So people got to learn how to save. Okay, and these meetings again, this has turned into a big pissing match since every election. When you people were running, this is what I heard about was, I'm going to be here for the people, not the party. Well, I don't think it's that way. Every meeting, and this is going to be my last one in a long time, it's become party affiliated. That's all it is. And it's going to be that way when we have 3 to 3 all the time. Thank you. Later.
All right, with that. Ted, and then we'll make a motion to adjourn.
Thank you for allowing me to get in here. First thing I want to say is for 4 years, I was in Erie County legislator, and it was 6-5. The meeting tonight, with the difference of opinion and the passion, was closer to the norm, okay, in the Erie County legislature for 4 years. One of the things that Councilman Kaminsky said is, as a businessman, he wouldn't do certain things or whatever. Well, up until this last year, up until now, I mean, we had one on the board that couldn't get anything done.
So for 60 or 70 years, it's been smooth, it's been fine. And I guess some people in parts of the town who complain they get nothing done used to, or they apparently still like that. They miss the fact that it was all rubber stamps here. I don't get it. I'll never get that. But the passion and the fact that you've already, I don't know, lowered the potential bonding through negotiations or whatever is a step in the right direction. But to me, for 12 years now, when I ran 12 years ago, and of course it's never changed, there's a huge elephant in the room, no politics intended, okay? The three Democrats, and primarily Jerry, has done this at least 3 times. You've signed off on town employee contracts where they tell the town how many people must be employed. Have you ever done that as a private businessman because you love to talk about your private sector experience? Have you ever had a job where you've told the potential customer, oh, I got to put 10 people on it, even though I could do it myself because I got to keep them all employed. Obviously, you wouldn't be in business. But what happens here is unlike steel companies and automobile companies that come across with ridiculous demands and they go out of business, all you do is raise taxes. The biggest elephant in this room is sanitation. If Cheektowaga privatized sanitation, we'd save $5 million a year. Imagine the interest we'd save. Imagine the stuff we pay off. Imagine the seniors that could get extended benefits. $5 million a year. What I would love is if at least one of the 6 of you would contact one of the private waste management companies between now and the next board meeting and ask them to submit a bid. So when you're negotiating with the town employees, if they can't come anywhere close to it, then you know what? Grow up. Don't sign off on any contracts until you get rid of this obscene, you must employ 224 people, no matter how much better the equipment gets, how much more efficient it is, no matter how many people leave the town, you gotta hire 224. And you 3 approve it, God knows what you other 3 are gonna do. It's an obscenity, obscenity. Thank you.
Just a point of information, before we close the meeting, the sanitation department, we have an ad valorem tax where if we went to, let's say, a fee for service under privatization. I've looked into this and 4 out of 5 people, when I looked into it a couple of years back, would have seen their trash taxes go up if you went to a flat fee for each household. So privatization actually, if it went that way, would actually increase the amount majority of homeowners in the town would pay. If you did it on the ad valorem tax, I don't know if that's possible. There's other ways to do something like that, but just as a point, if we think that the answer to our sanitation department problems in this town is a flat fee with privatization, it will increase the majority of people's garbage expenses in this town. I'd be happy to sit down with anybody, go over my my napkin math on that, and I feel very strongly that that kind of scheme would not be the best for our people.
It'd be nice if you could prove that instead of just saying that.
Yeah. Oh, hey. Yeah.
I lived in Amherst when we went to privatization, and they told us it was gonna cost the same, except we weren't gonna have the pensions in 30 years. And Amherst doesn't have those pensions now. That's the difference.
As I said, the flat fee with privatization, that's what I'm saying here. So with that, make a motion to adjourn. All right. All in favor? We are adjourned. Thank you guys for coming.